What's up, Internet? I'm Clark Strakaris. I get nerdy nightly, and I thought I'd share it with you. Thanks for coming back for another spoiler chat, this time for Shadow and Bone. We are actually doing a spoiler chat for the entire series, and I have a special guest with me, ChaoticNeutralGoblin. The lovely, incredible human being. They also stream over on Twitch, and they're a big fan of the series. Goblin, do you want to introduce yourself?
I mean, I think you did a beautiful job. Yeah, I'm just a book nerd who loves YA and loves the adaptations always. They definitely never do anything wrong.
Yeah, no, never. Okay. I got you. Do you have any fun things coming up that you want to talk about?
Oh man, not really. Not really. I'm a RPG streamer. I love Star Wars. Gonna play the Mass Effect for the first time. That series, Dragon Age.
Nice.
A lot of good games, but I guess I'm officially getting an upgrade for my Ciri cosplay. Because I cosplay Cirilla from The Witcher 3. So
Fun!
to match the sword in the background, I'm gonna have a picture perfect image replicated cosplay. So that'll be a lot of fun.
That's so fun. I cannot wait for that. When when we're all vaccinated and stuff, we'll have to do a cosplay shoot together.
I'm already coming to Canada. It's
perfect.
I know 12 people there. It's wild.
Yeah. Twitch is great like that. So okay, Shadow and Bone. So we starting way back, we did a trailer reaction when the trailer first dropped, because you're very familiar with the series, and David and I knew basically nothing. And that trailer was so good that I was like, I need to read this book. I thought that they did a really good job with that. But the reason I wanted to chat with you about it is because we kind of bring two different perspectives to the show. I watched it as someone who didn't know anything about it and saw the trailer, then went and bought the first book and read it and watched the series, whereas you are a longtime fan. Is that correct?
Yeah. And you've only read the first book, correct? The Shadow and Bone.
Yeah. So when I started watching the show, I was like, dang it, maybe I should have read all the books first, because I kind of don't know what's going on because of how the show melded the two different series together. But I'm kind of glad I didn't, because you and I have two different perspectives on it, and I think that we should talk about, did Netflix do a good job with two different audiences, longtime lovers of the series and people who are brand new to it.
Yeah.
So starting off with my initial thoughts, I'm going to be very candid up front, so that if people are watching this, they can turn it off if they hate me. But I had a lot of problems with the show, and I didn't love it the way that I really wanted to, especially after reading the first book. I'm gonna read all the others, because that first book was top notch for me. But I was kind of disappointed with the show, because they put different series together. For me, it felt like I was watching at times two different shows and then three different shows. When they added in the Grisha on the boat,
Nina and Matthias,
and the fear. Yeah. When in the series does that storyline come in?
That is Six of Crows, and that does not happen. And nothing with the crows happens in the Six of Crows duology. That is all precursor. There's so many differences with that, and I'll be quite upfront. I love Six of Crows more than I love the Grisha trilogy. And I'm not very thrilled with what they did. It's a catch-22, right? Because I'm sure they're like, hey, we can make Shadow and Bone trilogy, or we could put in the crows because everybody loves the crows, and kind of make that so we can get into their story later.
Yeah. I wondered if If I had a choice, I think what I might have done was like do one season with one of them and the next season the other side, or make them two different series. Just because as a viewer, I was kind of confused what was going on, but then also having read the first book, I was like, wait a second, if the things that happen in the book happen in the show, they can't really have much interaction. And they didn't really, except those last couple like moments at the end, which is fine. You know, they handled it. Okay. Yeah, I'm like,
I did not like it. I did not like
okay,
that
it's like
Alina gave. I did not like that Alina gave Inej her knife that is called Sancta Alina. Like, no, it's not.
That's super cringe. I was like, oh no, okay. This is where we're going with this. Honestly, the moment to me, and like, we had a good laugh about it, and I want to know what you think. I was like, how is there going to be a crossover between these two things? I was like, I don't understand. They're at the palace, but I know how this goes in the book, so are they going to change it? And then Alina straight up puts herself in the trunk of their carriage, and they roll away. And we were like, what? Like,
which is how it happens. Which she does stow away in the book in a theater troupe's carriage.
Yeah, she like pretends to be a performer, but she like got into a trunk, not knowing whose carriage it was or when it was leaving, and just hoped. She's like, I'm just gonna hope really hard that this works. And I honestly, that was the moment I think where the show lost my good faith from the books. That one stuck out to me. But let's backtrack a little bit and start at the very beginning when we're introduced to everybody. I want to know what your thoughts are on the different characters and how they were portrayed in the Netflix adaptation.
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, the biggest change is Mao. I think.
I would agree.
Actually given a personality that's not based in toxic masculinity in the show, does a great job with making the audience love him, and he's just open and communicative, but he's also a flawed human being. I really love Mao. I never thought I'd say that because I hardcore love the Darkling, and I know you do too.
Yeah, we will talk about that. We will have a section for that.
But yeah, Mal is great. I love Alina. I love the choice to make her half Shu. I think that's I thought it was great. I thought it was wonderful.
That was actually,
I loved that actress.
That was actually something that I wanted to ask because I only read the first book, and her being half Shu is not in the books at all. Is that correct? Okay.
No, she's a mousy-haired white girl.
Yeah,
that's how she's like described.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought, and then but they kept saying it so much in Shadow and Bone that I was like, did I just like miss something? Because it was not like that was not a theme really at all from the books that they introduced into the show. And I thought I was losing it a little bit. I was like, did I just like make that up? Did I just forget? Okay. Yeah. I also really love. I want to say that I also really love Mal, because in the book I was like, meh. But in the show, it's like, okay, you're an actual, like, human, and I'm enjoying this.
Yeah. And I don't know the casting decision behind Alina. I don't know if they just, auditioned a lot of actresses, and they're like, oh, you are her, like, you're the one we want, and then they justified it, like, however they want to. And I don't know how they did it. All I know is that I was totally fine with it. Cast more, like, BIPOC people. Like, I love how diverse the show is. It's fucking fantastic.
Yes, that is one thing that the show does so well. There is so much diversity in everybody in the cast, like leads, secondaries, and extras, all around. And Netflix, like 10 out of 10 for that.
Yeah. I like Ben Barnes as the Darkling. I love him. But we're gonna get to that later. I will say the one moment in the show where I actually had that, like, I like welled up in tears. I started crying. Was when we first go to Ketterdam and we see Jesper at the table with the fake coins and she's
Mm-hmm.
I love Jesper so much. He's one of my favorite Jesper and Inej.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they were casted perfectly. Like I
Yeah.
could not. It almost makes me not mad at what they did to get them into the show because I love Jesper so much.
Yeah.
And I love Inej so much. And those two of the crows I love so much.
Mm-hmm.
Nina, Matthias also beautifully cast.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm on the fence about a few things with Matthias, but Nina
Okay,
was
me
perfect.
too. I was like, there were a couple points where I just got some like kind of like creepy vibes, like just a little bit too like, and I was like, okay, I don't know how I feel about this, but all right.
Oh, he's supposed to.
Okay.
He's
See,
supposed to.
not being the book reader, I was like, okay, I understand. Yeah, it's
he had one of the most interesting character arcs throughout Six of Crows.
okay. That's cool. I see. That's the thing is, I need to read it, and I'm really excited to. And I totally agree with you about Jesper and Inej. I think that how their story was handled and trying to tie it into the show wasn't great, but them as characters and actors, I really, really enjoyed. I enjoyed the moments that they had. I enjoyed them together. I think that they brought something like they really brought something extra to the show. And while I'm happy that like they were there, I don't love how they did it.
Fair.
Yeah.
It was very cheesy in a lot of ways. And while like Jesper's one-liner is like I'm fucking fantastic. Like yeah, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But that's the thing I was most upset. Well, after the way the Crow's story was like cramped and crushed to mesh with the Grisha trilogy. I don't like how campy it was. Six of Crows is like a bit more dark than the Grisha trilogy in ways. And
and there's moments that they really like, they try to highlight that. Like when Inej is like, I can't go back. Or after she's like stitching up her wound and she's like, you know, like, and you're like, oh my God. That's heavy stuff. But yeah, the way that they handled the story was definitely more campy than I would have liked. The one thing that I had written down about Shadow and Bone is that as a book, as the first book, it doesn't really like push any boundaries in any kind of way, but the author does introduce deeper, darker themes in a way that is more easily digestible than something really heady or like really, really dark. It kind of like it kind of lets readers, and especially if you're like a teenager growing up, like I feel like it's a really I think that Leigh Bardugo broaches those subjects in appropriate ways. And yeah, I'm kind of sad that Netflix made light of a lot of their situations, because it seems like it seems like they live dangerous lives and bad stuff happens.
yeah, and when you find out Kaz's backstory, that shit's really, really dark. I don't really want to talk about Kaz because that I'm livid.
Yeah.
I'm livid.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah,
livid.
we talked a little bit about this. I mean, if you want to talk about it, then this is the moment.
Here's the thing, is like, we both know, working in the industry, being actors, like it's sometimes it's really hard to pinpoint where things go wrong. And I'm not sure if it was in the direction of the character. I'm not sure if it was the execution of the character. All I can say from what I observed is that, like, I was excited that Freddie Carter was cast as Kaz. I was like, you got a great face. You got a great energy, like, in all the photos that I seen. I didn't watch a lot of videos with him.
Yeah.
But, and it's not... he's like trying to be this character when he could literally just like, he's like trying to be this character instead of just sitting back into the power that is Kaz Brekker, and he's making something along the ways, again, could very much be the direction he was given. Something about it is taking so much away from Kaz Brekker's power. He is powerful. He is a child. He is a very young man who, like, is flawed and young, but he's lived a life, and he has more of an energy in the book. And a lot of fans of the fandom are like, oh my God, it's like young Cillian Murphy as Thomas Shelby, but like different. And like that's the purity that character brings.
Right.
And he doesn't have that in the show.
No, he doesn't. He out of like the Crow's side of things, he was definitely the least interesting to me, because it did feel like very like I am trying so hard to like put this on. Whereas I think the character, like you said, would have had so much more power if like he made you come to him. And who knows where along the process that was what got into the final product. But it did not work for me either.
Yeah, because he's experienced a lot of trauma, but he's not someone who's like, Kaz isn't someone who's like, I'm going to try to overcome this by becoming this person. Mm-hmm. He's like, no, I'm shutting down these parts of my brain. I'm focusing on what I want, my goals, and I'm going to do anything to fucking get it. Yeah. So it's more of like a shutdown than a shutdown, hone in, than I'm going to be this person.
Totally.
Also, I hate how much they made him a, can I say simp?
Yeah. This is not Twitch.
Okay, I hate how simp they made it. Like, they force, and it's there in the books, but it's a slow burn in the books. Yeah. And this is a prequel, and him and Inej are already like, you mean a lot to me.
Yeah, it's a lot, and he definitely gives up his power, like, in those situations, which, like I said, Inej and Jasper are super interesting, and I think that how they did Kaz kind of fed into that. But yeah, it was very kind of like young boy trying really hard, and like he had like a hardcore schoolboy crush. And I was like, okay, I understand what this is trying to be, but I'm not buying it. It just was not executed well. I will agree with you there. Definitely not my favorite part of the series, but you know what I do love? I do love the Darkling.
I do love the Darkling.
Okay. First of all, Ben Barnes, 10 out of 10. like David and I, when we watch stuff, we'll often talk about, we're like, yeah, that person is very attractive, and that man is chef's kiss. He, I think, as far as like portrayals of characters go, at least in the main storyline, I don't know. Jasper and Inej had really good moments as well, but I think like overall, the Darkling was so good. Like, I bought it. I bought into all of it. I was like, yes, please. Take me away to the little palace. Like,
truly. And it's so I love how they maintained. I remember feeling this way when reading the books throughout the whole series. I'm like, I don't know, like, I don't trust him, but also I do.
Yeah.
And like, he might be manipulating Alina, but is he really? I don't know. Even when Baghra is like, he's had centuries to like learn how to manipulate young women or whatever.
I know, I was like,
she
no.
says.
No, he likes her.
I'm like, I don't know. This seems like it's kind of different.
Yeah, I was 100%. Like, reading it, I was like, the Darkling. I was like, this is not going to end well. But I was so into it the whole time. I was like, yes, this is the pairing that I want. And also, in the book, I feel like they kind of really shaft Mal. Whereas in the show, he had so much more depth of character. So I did actually like him a little bit more in the show, but in the book, I was like, Mal? Why? Girl, why? Like, the Darkling, please and thank you.
Truly.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah, he was he was great. He was great. We could do a video on just that, but we won't.
What do you think about his added backstory? I'm interested. Because that's not in the books. That's not in the later books.
It's not. Okay. See, I wasn't sure. I was like, well, maybe that kind of comes up in... I was like, maybe that kind of comes up in later books, and so I wasn't gonna...
Well, like... you get glimpses here and there of him as a boy and his, like, hungering for power and such, but the only thing that was revealed this season in the later books, to my knowledge, off the top of my head, is his name, which I don't like the way they did that. It's much more powerful in the books.
Yeah, it was kind of just like, Alexander. And you're like, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so the backstory stuff was mostly added by Netflix, which is interesting to me. I feel like they are trying to soften up the Darkling a lot. I feel like they're trying to shy away from the toxicity of it, because they also there was the article of consent that came out with the moment between him and Alina, which they added in because their viewership is younger and they want to encourage that kind of those kind of interactions and that kind of thinking. Like, consent is very sexy, very sexy. However, I do think that softening him up in that moment and with his backstory and stuff kind of takes away from that toxicity. Like, he's like supposed to be the villain. And I am assuming he's the villain for the rest of the books. Like I said, only read the first one. But yeah, having him be softer, I don't know if I'm fully sold on that choice. I think that what makes him so like intimidating is that feeling of power. And look, I totally understand what Netflix was trying to do, and I commend them for making that choice with the moment between him and Alina, because I understand that the audience for this material is is not much younger, but it skews towards the younger, like, teenager, young adult side. And so, I'm okay with that. But it's interesting that you say that the backstory stuff is added in, because it definitely tries to like humanize him a lot more. Like, in those moments, because I wasn't sure if it was in the other books, I was like, oh wow, this is sad. And like, I do kind of understand why the fold happened. Because it was kind of, because in the show they make it more impulsive. Like, yes, he went to the library, he read the piece of paper, which was a weird moment, and then suddenly he could do it, which that didn't read well to me. I was like, I'm very confused as to how.
I am too.
Okay. I was like, I don't know what that was supposed to be, but it almost seemed like the fold was more created in desperation. Whereas I it's okay if you spoil it for me. I would like to know if in the books it is a moment of desperation or if it's carefully calculated.
God, I would literally have to go look that up right now, because I read through the full synopsis of the first book just so I could like refresh my memory.
Totally. I'm
not someone who can pull facts out of
that's okay.
My magical bag of holding that is non-existent in my brain. I personally, this is not to say it hasn't happened, or it doesn't happen in the books, but I personally don't remember ever getting a real explanation about it, except to weaken. Okay, the way it makes sense in my brain is if any justification is given, I think it's because he creates the fold to weaken Ravka and the human side of it, the king and all that, to make him rely more on Grisha, because the whole thing in the books, it's not a civil war between East and West Ravka. It is, should Grisha have this much power as they do?
Yeah.
So I think it's something more relating to that, to be quite frank.
Okay, interesting. It's fine. It's, if you don't remember, like, that's totally cool. I wondered, because it seemed so impulsive, and the Darkling that we know seems much more calculated than that. I wanted to ask your opinion on the decision to have the collar be like part of Alina and like mutilate her almost. Cause that was a weird choice for me.
Like, is this how it works?
Yeah, I was like, wait, you have to fuse the bone to your bone, and then the Darkling had like a little like push to talk button on his hand, and I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I think what they were trying to do is they were trying to give a better visual to audiences, because in the book you have things to explain the control and the feeling. Like you read how Alina feels the control being taken from her, in a sense, whereas they have to kind of visually represent that in the show, but it didn't work for me.
Yeah. I'm on the fence about it. Like,
Okay.
it was grotesque, but it was kind of cool in a way, because they just fused the bone together at the back to make a legit collar.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. There was that one scene. Oh my God, I forgot this was from the books. I forgot that was from this books, because you have your iconic book line quotes. But that scene in the tent with her and the dark thing, she's just holding herself and she's like, "I'm your prisoner," and everything she's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That the embedded into it, because I couldn't stop looking at it.
Yeah.
It made it more powerful in some ways to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, I forgot. I was not prepared. I was not ready, because that verbatim line, the "Fine, make me your villain." I sprawled out on the couch. I was like, "Oh, that's right."
Yeah, that scene actually I thought was like top tier, one of the best in the show, for sure. Oh God, yeah, that moment was like, oh God, like it's just like the chills. It's like, no, especially because you know what's gonna come next.
And I like it because he is so humanized in this. Like, I'm fine with his added backstory. I like it. I like a justification. I like to see a fall, and I don't like. Sometimes it's nice to have a villain who's evil for no reason. Sometimes that can be really compelling, but like, it really humanizes him in a lot of ways, and I'm down for it. I do respect all the things that you said earlier with pushing consent, but I also think they could have done it more skillfully instead of just blanketing it.
Yeah, it felt very, this is what we're trying to do, and you're like, okay, I get it.
Because you can maintain that power, that charming, like kind of like pushing, but if in a way to like reinforce respecting people's boundaries is like him like putting a feeler out there, and then Alina shutting it down with boundary, and then him respecting that. Like, if you want to teach people how to set boundaries, how to deal with people who are manipulative or gaslighting or toxic in any way, like you need to show them that behavior. And like, of course, not everyone's going to respect it like they do in the movies, but teach young women how to set boundaries.
Yeah.
Teach them how to say no. And like,
yeah, I am all for that. And that's why I'm like, okay, I understand what they were trying to do. I agree. Yeah, it could have been done more skillfully, and I think that putting that kind of content into stuff that's more geared toward teenagers, boundaries and consent, I think that's like super important. But there was just a lot about this show that kind of felt sloppy. You know, there were moments, there were specific moments that felt sloppy. There were plot things that felt sloppy, like her popping into the trunk of a carriage, and just and also like, okay, the whole thing with the bullet around the goat's neck, and it just fits perfectly into the manacles for a mount. I was like, have you met Deus Ex? Like, oh God, I just, yeah. It was a moment where I was like, oh, no. Like,
I had to remember what the hell was going on. I was like, isn't that the goat from earlier?
Yeah, it took me a second. Because it was kind of like it was a fun moment when they were about to be murdered by the Volcra, and that's fine. And then, Jesper cries when he has to give up the goat. Okay, fine. But the fact that bullet is just like the thing that Mal used, like, it was a little bit of a stretch for me. I like it when things make sense, and that did not make sense.
Like, that's like a fun campy thing you do in your Dungeons and Dragons game, like in the League, not in the full thought out Netflix series, maybe.
Yeah, and the campiness, look, the campiness felt out of place. If they had wanted to make a campy fantasy series, then do that. but it felt like they were torn between doing something like serious with kind of like a darker edge to it, and then this like campy fantasy romp.
Let's have 3 minutes of flashbacks at the end, and just show them running in the meadow together and being
oh my god, the flashbacks drove me nuts. You get one or two. You get one or two. You get one for the Darkling, fine. You get like one or two for Malorelina, but they had like 2 an episode, and I was like, stop.
Please.
Stop. Please. I understand they really like this meadow. Like, I get it.
Yeah, so many things in the show were underdeveloped, and that's what you choose to spend time on? For real?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you could have spent that time developing the Alina and Darkling, because that felt a little rushed.
Yeah, or giving me more information on Ravka, because look, the decision to make Alina Shu, fine, but the fact that there are people of multiple different races, like, very clearly, and it's only ever mentioned with Alina, I was like, what the hell did the Shu do? Like, Jesper and Inej are obviously people of color, and, like, they never run into that same kind of, like, prejudice and, like, aggressiveness that Alina does. And I was like, what the hell? Like, what did the Shu do? Like, is there a thing from in the books, or were they just...
Well, they're at war.
Yeah, but they're also at war with everybody.
I think there's a very clear reason why they did not depict more of that, and I don't think it's even that big of a plot. Like, I think they mainly focus on the war with
the Fjordans?
I don't even see the wars didn't even remember, like, it was just like an external pressure point in the books, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like front and center.
Yeah.
And the Fjordans more because, they're witch hunters.
Yes, and Mal actually encounters them. So I feel like, so that was more prominent to me. But yeah, I was just kind of sitting there wondering, I was like, why is Alina hated so much more than everybody else? I don't know. I was just wondering if it was kind of, like I said, some things felt sloppy. Like, I wish they had taken more time to develop the world of it so that I understood why these things were happening.
Yeah, and she didn't encounter as much of it in the army when, at the beginning. Mm-hmm. It's when she goes to high society. It's when she's, like, perceived by people of higher status.
Yeah.
That, their racist tendencies, to be quite frank, come through, and they, like, speculate on her. Whereas the crows don't really, like, in Ketterdam, it's different.
Totally.
It's different. And then they don't really interact with a lot of people in Ravka, and when they do, it's usually of the lower class, like, broke ass actors.
Yeah, for me, it was, I think, like, the moment where she was, like, in the market and some, like, seller there was like, Shu, and I was like, okay, I get it if it's in the little palace, I get it if it's, like, in high society, and that's fine, even though they, like I said, they did have people. Netflix was great about making this a diverse show, but then not explaining why one specific ethnicity was hated so much. I wanted to know why. I was like, okay, what's the deal with this? Like, I understand if you're gonna make this a thing, I am here for it. Give it to me. But it felt sloppy because I didn't understand. Like,
yeah, they didn't. Why. They just are like, we're at war with the Shu, and that was it. That was the explanation.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, sure, I guess.
No, they were too busy doing flashbacks. It's fine.
Yeah, well, that's why I brought this up, is because there was time to develop other things, because we didn't need 7 scenes in the meadow with them running away again.
We also didn't need, we could have done with a quick 5-minute scene at the top of them as kids, and never seen them as kids again.
Yes. I would have been perfectly fine with that. You would have set up the story well, you would have set up the relationship, and then that gives you the freedom to move your story forward, as opposed to keep pulling it back to this one moment in time that I get. It's important, but I think the book did it better, because they had, like, a moment at the beginning, and then they had a moment at the end. And Netflix is like, okay, but what if we do that, but, like, times 10? And I was like, please no. Please no.
be like, no, we got to make sure people know Mal and Alina are supposed to be together.
Yeah, like, okay, I get it. Yeah, okay. Well, we didn't like the flashbacks. I have to ask, the other Six of Crows storyline with the Fjerdan and the Grisha. Sorry, I'm very bad with names.
Okay.
To me, it felt very out of place, but I would like to know what you think about it.
I don't like it.
Okay.
I don't like it. Here's the thing. That none of that is shown in the books. It is just referred to in the past. And again, this is another thing that didn't have enough time to play out. It felt so rushed, so quick, and I love Nina Matthias. Like the Nina, her casting, perfect.
Right.
She's a curvy girl who is sassy as fuck. Frick. And
fine. We'll bleep it out.
Good. She's a sassy girl who's just, you know, loud and in control, and she's amazing.
Yeah,
Nina's a great
loved
character.
her character.
But like the fact it was so rushed. So everything with the her being captured by the Fjerdans, that's canon in the books. The shipwreck, them trekking back and kind of getting closer along the way and changing each other's perspectives a little bit about everything. And it is pretty accurate. That's the one thing I do like about Nina and Matthias's part in the Netflix series. I loved getting able to see why she provided false testimony to him being a slaver, because it's mentioned in the books, but that just gave, like, being able to see it like that.
Okay.
I was like, oh my gosh, I get it now.
Yeah.
Because it didn't really resonate in the books as much about why that happened, because that's part of the Six of Crows book. Right off the bat, they have to go break him out of prison.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and then there's all that tension, and it was so heartbreaking because I knew it was coming. When she brings him bread, and she's like, hey, like, come on. And then he gets closer. I'm like, he's going to choke her. Oh, man,
yeah.
This is not going to be.
Don't do it. Here's the thing. I agree with you. I think, like, the casting, great. And I think that the story itself is interesting. I just think that it didn't really fit in the middle of this story. Either talk about it later, or like it, or I don't know. I'm like, I feel like it doesn't need to be there, because every time those scenes came up, I was like, what is happening and why is this relevant? Like, I was like, I don't know really who these people are and why they relate to Alina. You know, like, for me, the Shadow and Bone and how Netflix marketed it, Shadow and Bone is about the Sun Summoner, Alina Sarkov, right? And I was like, I don't understand how these people relate to it. And I they tied in at the very end, the Six of Crows people being like, we need a heart render. And she's like, and you're like, okay, I get that. But then again, that's all still Six of Crows stuff. It's not Alina's stuff. And I always hate in shows, and this happens in TVs and movies all the time, where something bad happens to a character that is brought about by another character, but for perfectly legitimate reasons that if you just explain to the person, any reasonable human would be like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But they don't explain it. They're like, I'm so sorry. And you're like, okay, but tell them what happened. And they don't. And you're like, well, all of this could have just been resolved if, you just communicated.
Truly.
Yeah. That whole storyline, it sucked because, like I said, characters that were really interesting, but it did nothing for me, especially then at the end where they use that trope of like, I'm just not going to explain to you why this happened. And so of course the other person's mad. Like,
yeah. Doesn't give her a chance.
Yeah. Okay, so before we wrap up, because we did hit 40 minutes, and I said I was like, I'll keep this to like 30, 40 minutes. But last thing I do want to talk about is kind of the ending moments, the final episode, you know, taking the skiff over through the fold. I want to know what you think.
Oh God. This was the crowning moment that like solidified. I hate that they brought the crows in like this, because that whole interaction, Inez throwing her fucking knives into the darkness, she wouldn't do that.
I know,
She wouldn't do that. She's smarter than
lost all your weapons. Like,
and she has so many. She literally has so many.
And they're all named, so she does care about them. Like, they mean something to her. And she just chucks them into the freaking fold. And I was like, okay.
No.
Does not seem like a smart plan, but sure. Yeah, that was very silly. It seemed like just an excuse to give her Alina's dagger at the end, which is also a choice that I'm kind of like, why?
So stupid. It's stupid. I'll say it.
Yeah. I did not love that. Yeah, but that I do have to say the moment where the Darkling like basically just like murdered a bunch of people by like pushing out the fold, like that was heavy. I was like, oh wow, okay.
But like, it's kind of sad that he took that away, because in the book, you know, Alina pleads to them for help, and instead of them helping and they refuse, she leaves them on that skiff to be like, Volgra Chow.
Yes. That is a moment that I'm really sad we didn't get to see, because it's dark and it makes Alina just an infinitely more interesting person. In the book, you know, they're getting attacked and she regains her power, and she takes Mal and she just leaves everybody there, which like so much more interesting than what happened. And I'm really sad that we missed that, because it's a character choice that I'm like, I can't wait to go read the rest of the books, but I'm not super excited for like season 2. If I'm not sure actually if they're renewed, but like I'm like, it's just less interesting to me.
And that's why they put the crows in, because they didn't know if they were gonna get renewed and be able to make like a spin-off series. Like that's
yeah. It literally felt like they took a thing and they were like, you're like, okay.
Oh, and we didn't get to see her use the cut. She didn't use the cut.
You're right. She did not. I forgot about that.
She can do a light cut just like the Darkling can do his dark cut. Mm-hmm. Which I actually refreshed my memory. The first time he used that was at age 13 when some dudes were trying to drown him. So he was not always bad.
Okay, see that I did not know, because that is in later books, I think. Yeah. But yeah. See that's interesting. The cut is such a like symbolic Grisha thing. Like, you have to be incredibly powerful to be able to do this thing. And when Alina does it, you're like, yes. But also then, like, she has that moment where and then leaves everybody there, I think is so, oh God, it's so much more interesting than what Netflix decided to do. And for the life of me, I'm really not sure why they changed it.
Well, they needed to get the crows off the skiff.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But I think that's why. The crows and Zoya, because Zoya wasn't initially on that skiff, I don't think.
No.
She doesn't become a bigger character until the second books.
Yeah, I was like, wait, why is Zoya there? It's like, I don't understand. I'm very confused. Also, like, everybody on the boat, like, the other Grisha literally watched the Darkling, like, murder everybody on the, like, shore of East Ravka, and like they're still like, yeah, that's cool. I mean, Zoya is kind of like, oh, but his like Heartrender bodyguard person is like, no, like has no change whatsoever, even after witnessing this like ridiculous mass murder.
Well, they're fanatics. Like yeah. What the Darkling cultivates is like, you know, almost cult like.
That's true. That is, you know what, that is true.
He's a charismatic leader who is like,
hey, I liked him.
You know, from a people who has been like oppressed and hunted, and like from their power. you know,
I
I
guess,
think it's very easy for him to sway that.
yeah, and I guess now that I'm thinking about it, like we don't see much of it from the other Grisha, but I'm sure a lot of them have pasts where they were fleeing or persecuted in some sense, and the Darkling probably saved a lot of them.
Possibly, yeah. But they're tested now. Like that's the thing. They're like Jedi Padawans. They're tested and conscripted into an army
Yeah.
as children. So
Mm-hmm.
they're impressionable when they come as Grisha to like be trained.
Yep. Yep.
So they're raised in this mindset. That's
Yep.
why you can't be mad at Zoya for being like, I don't like you, Alita.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Look,
I love Zoya. You'll learn. You'll as it goes further, or you read further, I love her. But
Okay. All right. I will reserve judgment then because I was like, wow, you're terrible.
she is, especially in the series. They make her so terrible. Like she's not that prevalent in the books, I don't think.
Okay. I mean, yeah, in the book, she has the moment with Mal at the very beginning, which then puts tension between her and Alina when Alina shows up and she, like, says some rude things in her ear and then, like, uses her Grisha power in, like, combat fighting. But other than that, like, those are kind of the big Zoya moments from the book. So that was all I got of her. I was like, wow, she sucks.
Yeah.
Question. We saw the very last shot of the Darkling emerging from the fold with the Volcra. Is that a book thing or is that a Netflix thing?
It is introduced to the book too.
Okay.
Those are not Volgra. They're called I'm gonna butcher this because I've never heard it spoken out loud.
That's fine.
They're called Nishvoya.
Okay. Okay, so they are different than the Volcra.
Yes. The Darkling gained some power there. He gained some power in the fold. And knowing that last scene gave me serotonin. It was so I love because like I'm like, oh yeah, like I've read the second book. Like I know that stuff happens. I know that he's still alive.
I figured he was still alive, but yeah, that moment I was like, wait a second. Because okay, so they're not Volcra, which is good to know. Now the show, if they come back, I feel like it would be a very Netflix thing to just say that they're the Volcra for like sake of ease. But it doesn't surprise me at all that A, the Darkling survives the fold, he literally made it, and B, gains more power from it because he literally made it. Damn. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna go read the other two books.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, there's so much that happens. You're gonna meet some good characters in the second book.
Good. I can't wait to flesh out East Ravka from like Alina and Mal's perspective. I feel like I've gotten a view of it from the Six of Crows stuff from the show, but in all honesty, there are things about the show that I like, but I'm gonna try to forget it and just focus on the books.
So East Ravka is where we've been this whole time, and West Ravka is where we just blew up. No, you're totally fine. And Ketterdam is a different place completely. I think it's technically like its own. It's an island. Ketterdam is an island.
Oh.
Yeah, Ketterdam is an island. It's not in West Ravka.
So Ketterdam. So. Okay, so the Six of Crows people are from Ketterdam.
Yeah, Ketterdam is basically imagine Birmingham. And Peaky Blinders mixed with Amsterdam, mixed with like magic and steampunk.
Okay, interesting. Because I don't know. I feel like the show doesn't talk about that because they just find a boat through the fold. Okay, cool. I was like, wait a second. Did I black out? And okay, interesting.
No, you didn't. They didn't explain that as very much.
Gotcha.
I will say
I get.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I get why they did that for sake of ease, but
I will say, which is like this is probably one of the main things that I want from any adaptation. The one thing I did get was beautiful artistic design of the characters, of the town, of the like I
Yeah.
there are some cheesy effects with the light, which is fine because that's something that's really hard to do.
Yeah, and it's expensive CGI, so I can forgive that, and I totally agree.
But like the buildings, the taverns, the costumes, the setting, the vibe, the mood, the immersion. Well, not the mood, because the mood was campy. But
Kefka?
Kefta?
Kefta? Yeah.
Kefta.
That was like one thing that I was like, I'm really excited to see what these look like in live action. And the choice, yeah, I think that the costuming was so good. Oh, we also didn't talk about my favorite, Jenya.
Oh God, she's so good.
She's so
good. Man,
I can't believe I forgot. She was like my favorite. I was like, I love you.
Yeah, keep me updated. Just message me when you read the books. When you keep reading the books, just message me. Whenever
okay.
You reach a spicy part. I won't say anything. But,
all right, good to know. We're gonna keep this is the conversation that's going online, but this conversation does not end here with us. I will have many. You will get many a message from me being like, "What?"
I love it. I love when people are like, "This is what the."
Yeah. Okay. I am so excited. The one thing that I am kind of sad I didn't get to see, which I was excited for, is how they talk about how like the queen looks like photoshopped because all the work that Jenya has like done on her, and that was not a thing in the show, and I was like, okay, fine, you didn't have time for that, whatever. We had 7 flashbacks, so it's fine, I guess. But it was just like a thing that I was like, I want to see how Netflix interprets that, and they didn't, unfortunately, but that's okay.
They didn't touch up that actress like at all, which
like fine, you know, like older women in stuff, like I'm totally about that. The idea of having like that Photoshop filter just like permanently on, and that it looks slightly off, you know, like I just wanted to see if they would acknowledge or try to pull it off, and they didn't, and that's fine. I get it.
Yeah, it's like an Instagram filter. I honestly thought would have been really funny if they just face mapped her and put an Instagram filter on her face. Like that'd be great for me, honestly.
That'd be great. I'd be like, oh wow, okay, you went for it.
Like, oh, you have butterflies flying around your head? That's cool.
Like little like puppy dog ears and
oh, you got freckles today, girl? All right, I see you. Killing it.
Yeah, I am a big fan. There's one that like changes the color of your eyes, and that's pretty much what I use for all my stories, because I'm like, I can pretend I have green eyes too.
But I love brown, beautiful eyes. They're so warm and oh, I love them.
Well, thank you. Yeah. It's always, you want what you can't have, you know?
Yeah.
Always.
Truly.
Always. Do you
less
have
flashbacks?
Do you have any more closing thoughts before we wrap up? Because we have gone a little over what I said I would take from your time. So
that's totally fine. I'm happy to be here. I don't think there's anything particularly sticking out with me. I think we covered the majority of everything.
Okay, great. Yeah. I talked about the things that I wanted to mention. Yeah, overall thoughts, kind of disappointed, unfortunately, which sucks because I know a lot of people really enjoyed it, and this series seems to be beloved. And I honestly can't believe I missed out on it because it's like right up my alley. But yeah, well, that's where we'll wrap it up then for today. Thank you.
I will say, I have friends who I've talked about this with, and they're like, I don't know if I want to watch it now. And I'm like, no, watch it. Like, I have my critiques. We all have our critiques from both being in the industry and being a lover of the series. But I don't regret watching it by any means.
No.
And I'm grateful for a lot of things that happened in it.
Totally. Yeah, I wouldn't be like, absolutely don't watch it. You know, it's not like the Aragon movie where I'm like, that one has like personally hurt me, and we won't go into that here. But this one, like, you know, we talked about, there are some really great actors, there's some really great design choices, some interesting changes. You know, some things didn't work, but there are some things that did. And so I think if you are a fan of this book, watching the show is not gonna like replace it in your mind. So, you know, go into it with, you know, without a certain expectation and an open heart, and you'll find things about it to enjoy.
Yeah,
cool. Well, thank you thank you for chatting with me. I really appreciate it. We're going to throw this up on YouTube. Again, if you are not following the fabulous Chaotic Neutral Goblin, please do that. Her live streams are truly incredible. I have to say, like, probably my favorite on Twitch. 100%.
Please, I will throw up. I can't accept this nice words from literally Clara Stracaris, the queen herself. Like,
no, this is my segue into the end here, so you have to. Okay. Goblin's fantastic and we love her. Thank you for being here today, and as always, YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, let us know if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, what your thoughts are on the Netflix choices of the shows. And yeah, as always, do something nerdy tonight. Bye.